Hey, it's Patrick Owancia, and I'm the founder and co-developer of the BaseWorks method. So the BaseWorks method at its core focuses on the cognitive and perceptual aspects of physical movement. Our Transmission podcast episodes explore both concrete and abstract realizations that emerge from the commitment to any kind of practice or pursuit to achieve life goals. And our aim with these productions is to find a common vocabulary to help better describe these experiences. We also produce companion reflection episodes that dive deeper into the topics discussed, so we really recommend subscribing to be notified about all subsequent releases. Maria Lucia Agon Ramirez is a choreographer, dancer, and a teacher of contemporary dance and yoga. After graduating from high school, Maria Lucia joined the Ballet Experimental Contemporáneo dance company in Colombia and participated in various international events in Medellin and Cartagena. She later attended the National Center for Contemporary Dance in France, just prior to being accepted to the Folkwang University of Arts in Germany. Since 2000, she's performed around the world in various productions, and in 2004, Maria Lucia and Mohan Thomas co-founded Tense Motor Dance Company, and as an annex to that, collaborated with the renowned choreographer Royston Muldoon. In 2019, she returned to Colombia as a choreographer, project director, and dance teacher for the program of the Municipal School of Arts of the Municipal Institute of Culture and Tourism in Bucaramanga. And in 2021, she founded Mukti Espacio Vivo, which really underscores her initiatives toward community building and interdisciplinary movement education. So I met Maria Lucia in 2010 when her and Mohan were in Japan performing a choreography for the UN Go for Biodiversity Summit that year. So she'd heard about our studio in Tokyo, and her and Mohan came down to study with us during that visit. That was a catalyst to some very cool collaborations between Japan and Germany. And over the next few years, that led to me being invited to Germany to teach and collaborate with Tanzmoto several times, and us inviting Maria Lucia and Mohan to Tokyo to teach and perform. Asha and I recorded this episode with Maria Lucia when we were in Colombia this year during our recent collaboration between Mukti Espacio Vivo, the Autonomous University of Bucaramanga, and BaseWorks. It covers a lot of ground in relation to Maria Lucia's life and work that really highlights our long-standing collaborative connection. And I'd like to add that this conversation is a really good example of achieving our show's initiative to examine deep and diversified work and the kind of insights that emerge from each experience. And as usual, references to everything discussed can be found in the show notes. So Maria Lucia, it's great to be here with you in Colombia, and we're very excited to talk to you today about all this different stuff that you've done in your life and what led you from Colombia to Europe, and then from Europe back to Colombia, and everything that you're doing now. So thank you very much for agreeing to be our guest on the Transmission Conversations.
Thank you, guys.
And there's a lot of area we want to cover. So we'd like to start first, maybe just as a kind of an insight for the people that are going to be watching the episode and for listening to the episode. First of all, what led you to contemporary dance? And did that start, what age did you start at? Or was it contemporary dance that you started at? Was it some other dance modality you end up in contemporary dance? Please give us a background on dance first.
Yes. So first I start around maybe 7 years. My mother brought us to an academy for jazz ballet. So I start with that. The teacher was very expressive. And so contemporary dance for this moment, I never heard about it. And I think the city also didn't have this contemporary dance at that time. But then somehow through life and through my family background of a lot of artists and the culture in Colombia, it's like you grow with dancing, even if it's salsa, cumbia, all our folkloristic techniques that we have in our culture. So dancing was always very involved. But really related to contemporary dance, when I finished my school, I got in contact with contemporary dance for a company and with one choreographer, and I just loved it.
So you joined a dance company in Bucaramanga?
Yes, exactly. When I finished the school, I got a chance to be for a project for 6 months that turned like a little bit like more than a year. And we were working like from Monday to Saturday, every day, sometimes also Sundays, like 8 hours a day. And this was a great opportunity and the real, very important moment of my life related with the dance, because it's like, I tell my parents like, I want to have 6 months before, like one semester before I go to the university to study psychologist, and then I want just dance. So whole family support me to do that. And at the academy, when I went in, the teacher told me there is audition. I never had done audition before. And you go to the audition and then it's for 6 months. They are looking for dancers because the professional ones left to Europe to study at university. And then they are trying to get new people. So I did the audition, I went in, and it turns like the director of the company was he was dancing with me when I was 7 years old. He was really like, what is that? You know, for me, he was like so big, wow. And and somehow I end up on this company for 6 months. And there, these 6 months, my parents were like, okay, you have to go to the university. And I was like, oh no, I am not going to the university. And I got like almost like a year and something. And from there on, he kind of like prepared me to go to Europe.
So you just trashed the idea of going to become a psychologist?
Yes, completely.
But did you originally want to become a psychologist? Since which age did you want to
I
become
always
a
wanted to be a dancer somehow. But psychologist, I loved it as well. And I always liked to be with people. That's why from the beginning on, I knew I want to be a dancer, also at the university for arts. But I always thought I want to work as a teacher, like the interchange with people, the social communication and exchanging experiences and create together. I always knew I wanted to do it. But somehow I have some memories of being at the living room when we couldn't go to the academy because of different reasons. I would put my 80s look with the trousers and all this, and I will rehearse at home. We always did some rehearsals and performance and, always dancing. So I always had it on my heart, but it was a feeling of dream, something that you see far away. And somehow this choreographer told me, it turns like, okay, little by little stops this 6 months. And I saw how these girls from Bucaramanga, he was preparing for different girls to go to the universities to Europe. For me, also going to Europe was like a dream, not for me. I thought it's maybe for really rich people to go to Europe. And he said to me, like, you can do your dream and I can help you. He was really important. His name is Eugenio Cueto. And with this strength, like he said, me, you can make it possible. But you have to do it now because of your age. So I was turning 18, and then it's kind of like for Europe late to start university. I mean, just perfect.
The interest in psychology continued, obviously.
Yes.
And I guess we'll talk more about that later, because we've had many conversations about how people think and the interconnection between working with your body and perception and emotions, and how that would actually lead to the development of relationships and or understanding of which relationships you don't want to be in, for example. So can you give us an idea of the timeline? So I know that, so was it 2000 that you went to Germany?
Yes, to Europe, right.
Okay, so that was Germany straight, right?
No, I went first to France.
Okay, so you went first to France, and how long were you in France?
I think around 3 months.
Okay.
I was there, yes.
So 3 months where? In Paris?
I was in Paris, yes, but first I went to Angers. Mm-hmm. There is a contemporary university specialized for contemporary dance for 2 years. I went there, and there were like over 350 dancers applying, beautiful dancers applying to study there, because was just study for 2 years. And I passed all the first tests, and then the second day we were around 30 or something. And then I did 2 tests more, and then I was out. And then they took 7 women, 7 men. It was really hard, so I was very proud, and it was exciting the whole time. It was amazing. But the director of the university, we were with another colleagues also there, and he said to us, we were like, we don't know what to do. I mean, when I saw all these dancers, like, I'm not the only one in the world that want to be a dancer, professional dancer, and I see all these beautiful girls and men and all these people. I told him, because I have a ticket for 15 days to go, and money for 15 days and clothes for 15 days. And then the director said, you know what, you can't stay here for a month, and you can be our student for a month. And he printed me a paper with all the universities in Europe, and he said to me, like, don't go, don't come back to Colombia. You are in the best time of auditions, so you just don't go, you go for it. And I really recommend you Germany. And I was like, no, Germany, no. The whole time I was like, no, I want France so much. The company gave me like a scholarship to study 3 months French. I loved it. I have a great, beautiful teacher. I love French. And then I stayed for a month there, and I wanted so much France that I did 2 auditions at the Conservatorium. This is before the university, but I thought I never did it. So, and I was looking, although I was 18 already, 19, I was looking still very young. So they welcomed me like, and I passed both. And both of them say to me, go to Germany. I'm like, no, I'm scared about the Germans. I knew too less about Germany, just history at the school. And it was panic enough, And, but...
not to mention the language. I mean, it would have been easier for you to learn French than German, that's for sure.
Yes. Yes. And then at the Conservatorium from Nantes, the director said to me, you know what? I hold your place, but I really think you should go to Germany. So for me, it was like, okay, everybody's telling me to go to Germany. What is that? And she said, it's very clear that you want to be a professional dancer. And sometimes the girls at the conservatorium maybe just change their minds, but you are so clear with that. And your body's still like you could really start the university. So what about... go to Germany, and if it doesn't work in Germany, you come back. And this kind give me...
confidence.
Yes, a lot of confidence. So I had a friend that in that company where I was, we were dancing together, and we have a very nice relationship. She was in Germany because I already everything finished. Money finished, ticket already gone. My family supported me. I was like, what shall I do? And they were very scared as well. It was the first time I went out of the house. And they were like, we support you. Go for it. It was very scary, but was also very excited. It was a mixture of a lot of emotions. And this girl called Andrea Mendez, she called me don't worry. Come with the bus. You don't care about money. You don't care about food, about apartment. You get everything from me. And even I do your papers. And I was like, what's that? This support, life is just telling me, just go to Germany straight. And I was like, okay, thank you so much. And I was trying to listen to my heart. My family and my friends was saying to me, listen the voice of God, but I couldn't listen. I'm like, what means that, Now I understand what really means and how important it is to listen to your inner voice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you went to Essen directly?
Yes, I went directly to Essen. Mm-hmm. So I went there to the university 1 month before the audition. So I could prepare the solo, I could prepare everything. And then the audition, I think, was 3 days. At the last day, I was also painting my hair. It was amazing, intensive. And yeah, when they say my name that I went through, all different thoughts. I didn't know if to cry of happiness or scaredness or sadness, because what really means that for me and my culture and my family and my dream. So it was 5 years. And then I on that time, if you didn't have any job or something, you had to come back. Now they change, like they give you certain time to find a job and then to come back. When I finished, I was working with my ex-husband, Mohan Thomas. We created very early a company in 2003. And we were working by the freelancer. So we couldn't prove a certain stability to stay. And my Spanish and flamenco teacher, he asked me, how are my plans looking like? And so I told him, and he said, I really love to have you as a student. If you want, I can apply and ask that you can stay with me and do 1 year specialization in flamenco and Spanish dance. And this was a dream for me as a little girl. So I thought, wow, fantastic. And also this brings so much support to the contemporary, the character expression, and the rhythms. There are so different rhythms. And I say yes. And he said, okay, let's try. And it happened. So I stayed 1 year more at university, and parallel to that, so I was always working. Yeah.
So just to recap, so this was, you did arrive in Essen as well in the year 2000?
Yeah.
Okay, and then you stayed in Essen right up until 2018?
Yes.
Until you returned to Colombia after that. So we'll go into that timeline a little bit later, but thanks very much for the outline of that, the transition to university. And then we'll talk a little bit about Tanzmoto and Mohan Thomas, because that's our connection.
Yes.
Our connection is initially when you came to Tokyo in 2010 to dance. And you had heard about our studio in Tokyo, and you and Mohan came down for some classes, and that's how we met, and that's how our collaborative relationship built from that point forward. And we did many things in both Germany and in Tokyo, and some of that stuff will also go into the show notes. But what I'd like to talk about a little bit at this point too is what we're always trying to sort of elaborate and unpack in the transmission episodes is the types of realizations that have come up from having committed to learning something or trying to achieve some sort of a skill or pursue a passion in life. And we talked a lot about your education and some of the different challenges and strong points that you had as going through dance training and dance education. But I would like to talk a little bit about education, because we had a conversation the other day about your experience in university and maybe how education in some ways might have changed from that point to now. On our very first transmission, we had another contemporary dancer, Matan Levkovich, and we talked a lot with him also about the relationship that he had with certain choreographers. He'd mentioned something to the effect that it was challenging at times for him to strike a balance between, feeling nurtured and exploring that creative potential. We talked about adversity, challenge, okay?
Yeah.
And you and I have also talked about this as being something which shapes your perspective. So some people will hold up well against pressure, and other people won't hold up so well.
Yeah.
And as we talked about the other day, sometimes when we don't hold up so well initially, if we reflect and think about that, what comes out of those situations, particularly when when it comes to relationship, an interaction with somebody that you work with, whether
Yes.
that's a teacher or a choreographer or a collaboration partner, what you can get out of that in terms of what comes out of that learning can be something which helps you to continue to move forward, but not to give up, not to leave your pursuit of passion. So I'm sorry I diverged a bit, because I had to make some reference to what we were talking about on our previous podcast.
Yeah.
But you'd mentioned school being a great experience. You also mentioned school being quite challenging at times. And, it's not a question of talking about whether we think it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'd like to know from you about some of the challenges that you had in the process of dancing, in the midst of trying to sort of fit into the educational expectations and formats that were at that time.
And also maybe another society.
In another society, another culture.
Exactly.
So you had a great experience. Obviously, you came out on the right side of things, but can you share a little bit with us about maybe the challenging times that you had, along with the really positive times that you had, and how those changed the way that you saw your profession. So you saw the creative side of the things that you do as well.
Yes. Exactly what Asha says, like how much I ask myself certain times, many times, and also the people ask me, like, why you are here in this culture that is so different than your culture. So I do a little comment that I feel so thankful to be in Germany, because Germany is like, if we would say like Colombia black, Germany white, or whatever, but it feel like this kind of a very opposite, different culture. So this rich your experience in life and your contact with you. So I would experience that were really challenging me at the university, having as directly to myself and also what I was observing for my colleagues. Some of them really just give up. This is what you just named at the beginning. And I realized how important it was, and it is still, these skills and fundamentals that my family just gave me, and how important it is to have a contact with yourself. Like, if something doesn't work around you, that you don't just collapse immediately and everything gonna destroy it. How important it is to have a good character as well. I was very young and I had a beautiful family from my ex-husband that really support me as well. So I could speak also and feel like this is my community as well. So I didn't have too many best friends to speak about it, but they give me really the support to be there in these kind of like a hard moments. And when I was always interested about study psychologists was to try to understand the other, why the other does certain things. In Colombia is an amazing country. We are very social, very lovely. I say from my perspective and what I have been receiving since I have memory. But I also have been seeing a lot of not so nice things about the culture. And then was always nice how my parents always try me to don't judge the other and to see, do you know what maybe they are really going through to do what they are doing and which kind of level of conscience they have. So this perspective I appreciate very much for my parents, because no was always like just doing like that to the other one, but just trying to be on this side. So I am so happy I had that because at the university I had some situations that I would just take it immediately as a person, like it's because of me,
Yeah.
And then I always say to the people, like, respecting, of course, the specialized psychologists, but that I study both at the same time, because it was an exercise for me to understand the point of view of the other. Why maybe I was thinking, like, why if they are teachers? Why if we are in such an intimacy moment? Because a dance class is really intimacy. You are not trying to hide nothing. Actually, you want to open your body, your soul, your emotions, your ideas, like your psyche, like everything. And then it's a very sensible moment to receive orders, ideas, corrections, information. So for me, it was like so sensitive that I couldn't understand why sometimes the way was so hard. But at the same time, I was just trying to see from outside. So I have Asian from Hungary, from Russia, from Poland, from France, from England, from Germany. They were from all my teachers were from all over the world, and my friends, colleagues as well. So it was very interesting how to see what maybe wasn't to me, but maybe they did it to Asha. And I see Asha like fragile, like vulnerable. And like, for me, was like unacceptable, some things. But still, even if it wasn't to me, I am very sensitive, so I could just feel what happened to her and that it wasn't right. But at the same time, is very difficult to criticize. So it was more for me to try to understand without to allow the other one to don't have respect to me. And this was a process of growing also for me. So the school I come from and my family and the academies, everything was very lovely and respectful.
one thing I would like to add to that is I think it's really, really cool what your parents said, because it's really difficult when you see somebody, or when you do something that's really fucked up,
Yeah.
or when you experience something towards you which you think, how come that happened to me?
Yeah.
It's difficult to set aside the immediate judgment,
Yes.
and so you have, that person.
Yes.
There's a bad person,
Yeah.
and think, okay, so hold it. Like, what is that person really experiencing in their life? And I think that there's a lot of polarization around this subject, both in psychology and society, and when it comes to interpersonal relationships in work or in collaborations, where everybody's very quick to judge and cancel the other person. So when I
Yeah.
say cancel, I don't know if you're familiar with the
Yeah,
term cancel culture, right?
Yes.
Which is something that seems to be quite, has become a lot more prominent now throughout, sociopolitics and identity politics. To take a step back and think, well, we don't actually know that person. We don't know what that person's experienced.
Yeah.
We don't have to know them. But at the
No.
same time, how much energy is going to go into feeling terrible and judging, as opposed to thinking, well, that's interesting. What would drive that? And there's a part of it was just like, okay, accept, learn, and move forward.
Yeah.
And easier said than done when something's directed immediately at you.
Completely.
But I want to ask now, in those moments where I'm not talking about so much growing up in Colombia and seeing bad things happen, but in the moments where you experienced something which felt very invasive to you, like something that was in the midst of your dance training, we don't have to specify what it was, but can you try to articulate for us the initial feeling that you had,
Yeah.
then how you analyzed it, and then what you got from it? Can you just give us an example? And you don't really have to, if you don't want to share the actual experience, you don't have to.
Yeah,
but
it's
you can
not. I think it's in general, for if I tell it exactly with the details, maybe the perspective for the other is like, oh, it's so stupid. It's like it's not so significant. But I think the emotion. I got a certain situation with some choreographer at the university, and I got very confused. And I got very frustrated. So I was like asking my colleagues, how do you see the situation? Because maybe I thought I am really doing everything wrong. Is everything bad somehow? But it's like I see the other ones and I see it as I want to understand, And I remember so well that they were saying to me, we don't get it. We don't know what is going on, I went home and I was like crying every night. And then in one moment, like my ex-husband said, if you come back again like this, I really will speak with him, But he was really angry. What I learned, I realized, okay, because maybe, your ego plays a lot with you, The people I was asking, because also they came to me and they say, but why he's doing that with you? And I say, I don't know. Then I realized, okay, it's not only me who is feeling that this is not right. Yeah, this is not the way. So it's not just about my ego. It's also like the situation is confusing. So I thought I reflecting on that, and it's like I wanted to respond also to the. I had to respond to the project. I don't wanted to do a drama because the ego will like very quick to do a drama, and. But it was still like a hard time. Every rehearsal was hard. And then I realized that maybe being in the room with him, maybe I reminded him something. Maybe not conscience. Maybe my way of being, or just maybe a form, physical form. I don't know exactly. And this situation helps me a lot to try to understand the other. So I thought, doesn't have to do with me, it has to do with him. But how I find the balance, that it's still very was taking a lot of energy. And for me, it's not like excuse you, it's with you, it's not with me. I was repeating this phrase, it's not with me is with you, inside of me. This phrase is going with me my whole life. Like, this is very nice because it comes, bring you a little bit down. But I will not say that didn't took me the energy, emotions, bad times, all that, but also teach me a lot. Yeah, to really to try to make it consequent, to understand that if it's not about you, to just let it go and don't stop it in your heart or your mind, and on especially also on the body. So the university have been a very important part of my life, and very important exercise, because sometimes you have the things, you know the things, but to practice it is just so difficult. Yeah, and still is an exercise for my life, because I am also very emotional. I am very lovely, but sometimes I also, if especially in the moments when I am very tired.
Yeah,
uh,
I've experienced that a little bit with you now here.
Completely.
Yeah, but I mean, it's interesting because
Completely.
before, when you used to come to visit Japan, I used to visit
Yeah.
Germany. Maybe I wasn't, but I know that now, probably, even though you were very busy with what you were doing with Tansmoto and the dance company and the
Yes,
teaching,
yes.
I see now, some of the, and I really empathize with you, because running a studio, a physical studio, and having to manage
Yes.
teachers, that's a big challenge. So even if you aren't even tired, if something happens which challenges what you thought the way it was going to be, that it depletes you of energy. But that's an interesting thing. Yeah. No.
Yeah. So it's still like when we as a teacher we repeat
Yes.
and repeat, and this is actually very good, because you remember and remember, because we forget so quick, especially when we have these situations, unexpected situations that bring you out of your balance. And I try to say to my students and say to myself, it's a daily challenge. So you want to do it right, you want to do it good, you want to be conscious, but like Ash explained is at the conference, like sometimes it's just 99%, or maybe also 99.9% that we are not conscious. It's like when I went home after the conference, I was like, oh my God. But it's so true, like some seconds of being really conscious. And I feel these are the most beautiful moments in my life, because when you are really on the moment, it's like it's no frame and no feeling of time. And this I really have, I think, or maybe it's just an illusion, we'll say, Asha, I don't know. But I think maybe it was this really moment of deep sadness or deep happiness or excitement, that you really feel like all is one.
But excitement, not in a way like you're being hyper emotional, but excitement in a way like a hyper energized state, a state of awareness. What exactly do you mean by excitement here?
Both. I
Both.
mean, like a very emotional moment, just like when I remember very well when the son of my sister born, I was the first one who touched him. And it's like feeling of the time stops, and you are just completely aware. Or when my auntie just passed from life to death, just this moment, this last breath, and you are living that, is like, it's no thought, nothing that interrupts you this real moment. But also I had in some dance experiences or meditation experiences that you really feel like that all is one and you are part of this whole. Yeah. Yes.
I'd like to ask about how you encountered yoga when you were in Germany, and how it affected your dancing. And also, I would like to maybe ask you to reflect a little bit on, was there a part in your education that was missing that you were able to find in yoga? And explain a little bit how your experience of dancing has changed.
Yes. So when I got in contact with yoga, I had some problem on my knees So I went to the orthopedic in Germany, and then he would say, "You have to quit your dancing." I say, "Okay, thank you, goodbye," and then I thought, "Where's that?" Like whatever. So Mohan said to me, "You know what? If I really look to your legs, I realized you don't have so much muscles here," and then he say, he already did some yoga before, and he had a very good teacher. And he say, if you want me, I can teach you some asana, some practice that you can really get strength on that, and then we'll protect a little bit your knees, because at the university we did, especially in the ballet class, we had to do very slow movements, to which really you need strong muscles. So, and then when he just explained me, he gave me like a little explanation about the technique, because he say, before I teach to you some asanas. I want that you understand that this thousands of years technique is not just because of getting some muscles. But he kind of like explained me a little bit about the dimension. I will never forget. I don't want to get too long on that, but he gave it to me. I'm very happy that he did that. And then I did some classes with him, and I got completely in love. So I felt inside of me, this is what I was always looking for. This was my inner voice. This is what I was always looking for. Why I am understanding that through the years, why I had this feeling, because sometimes you have voices and feelings, but you don't really connect consciously with everything. And as soon as I connected, so I practiced always before our first class. It was always at 9 o'clock in the morning. So I was doing like at 8 or 7:30 first my yoga practice by myself. He teach me some. I bought the Light of Yoga from Iyengar, and I was reading a lot and trying to do exactly how he was saying. And Mohan was just looking at me sometimes. And I was very lucky because he had very good teachers, and it was all private classes. When he came from New York, he passed away already. He was a student, disciple from Dharma Mitra, and he was a choreographer and dancer. And then when he came to Germany, he gave like for the students class, for Carlos Paz, a Mexican, and for Mohan. And he said, because Mohan is your girlfriend at that time, he said she can come. He was from Venezuela. He was amazing. So I started to get in contact on that, and what I felt, and then through the years, I understand more and more why have been so important to my life and to my career, is that it brought me or gave me in a different perspective of the relationship with my being to life, my connection with my body, the regulation of the energy, like how I could, even if I am tired, I'm confused, I'm this kind of moment, like everything is too much overwhelmed, like too many things to do, the concentration and the spiritual connection, like there is something inside and in the whole cosmos that I could feel it more stronger. The help of perspective, what we were speaking about, what my family gave me, and then I understood more, like when I started practicing yoga, also like to feel the body as a whole, not just like parts, but to feel the whole body always gave me and release also many things that are maybe too tired or too tense, and to be aware of the whole. This is very important for a dancer, the connection with the space. I cannot say I learned it from yoga, I learned it from dancing. Is like sometimes I have heard from my teachers, be careful of that, or do this and this and this and this, and maybe suddenly come a yoga teacher, then I get it, all the other way around. So I cannot say it's just this or just this, but I really felt and feel still that my dance and my connection with myself, with the cosmos, with the people, with the space, it got more profound. With yoga, I really felt it. Like sometimes if I would learn something new, I felt it was good for me just to do some salutations before. If we have a performance, before I went to this to dance to do the performance, I will always take a moment for myself on the stage, being alone, walking around the like getting contact with the space, like looking front, like okay, now it's nobody, but after will be full, hopefully, and how to spread my energy on the space and these feelings, and to do some salutations like help me to kind of like organize. Like my heart was like, and I was thinking, why I'm doing this profession? I'm crazy. Sometimes the adrenaline was too hard. And this kind of like, I don't know, it's like you have a bottle with gas close and you do like, you shake it, and you stop it, and it's like.
What which practice are you making reference to specifically there? Too much adrenaline. What, performance or yoga or what?
No, I mean before the performance, I felt always if
Anxiety.
I do anxiety like crazy, and then I realized if I do some visualization and some yoga practice before, I was more connected, and I realized that I learned also much better. Like I can focus more.
Do you still have performance anxiety or anxiety before
Always.
performance?
Always. It's like people tell me, it's like maybe it's, I don't know how many hundred of times being on the stage, but I always feel like the heart goes quicker, and always. But then the relationship is a little bit different because I have some tools, and these tools kind of like, if they work for me, and this kind of adrenaline, you kind of like a little bit is good to have it. Sometimes if you don't have it, it's then strange, you know. So a little bit of adrenaline is always good, but I was always nervous that this adrenaline just take maybe my memory. Like if I go on the stage, I forget the choreography, you know, that it get too much power. So also this is one of the things that I really learned also from yoga. I feel like how to manage the movement of the mind that doesn't get the power of your action. Like how to, okay, you are there and you are very powerful, but you are not the one who is driving me to everywhere. So you don't have the power, the completely power. So how to manage the relationship between my mind and my body. So these have been really helpful for me, like trying to understand that sometimes it's not easy, you know. As a dancer, you have a lot. I mean, dealing with the space, dealing with the dancer, with the music, being on time, like the pressure of to have the expression. I mean, I say to my career, but for sure, like you say, like it's to all of us independent of our careers. It's like all these movements and how to don't think like, oh no, I don't care. You can say don't care, but in one moment pops up. So it's like, okay, is there, and how to have the relationship. Like I have a relationship with my husband, with my father, with my mother. I have to deal with that because they are there. And I want to be I want a relationship with them. So it's the same, like the emotion comes, the thoughts come, the pain comes, because as a dancer, you have a lot of it's normal to have certain pains, no, because of too much work or injured or tired or whatever, and how to have this relationship with this whole, and I feel like yoga really helped me to go deep on that and have more understanding to myself, like you have to, and doesn't matter that you have pain, you go for it, and you have your thought, and you are answering to all these thoughts, like
It's interesting because I mean, if I understand correctly, I mean, I think that and there's what a lot of people say about contemplative practices. I'm going to say that yoga is included in that. Their meditation would be included in that. Martial arts may be included in that. Some other kind of somatic practices would be included in that. It sounds like you develop strategies to observe and analyze those situations in order to be able to process them, as opposed to building strategies to put them aside, you know, like which is what
Avoid.
what you see, which is what you can see in acting, dance, competitive athletics. There's anxiety, then there's a performance-based adrenaline thing which comes up. Then there's how one would deal with those different situations, whether that would be through more of a contemplative approach or counseling on some level, like a psychological counseling, depending on the level that you're performing, whether there would be a psychological counselor to come in or some sort of a coach that would come in to help you differentiate. But a lot of people have these strategies, which sometimes I think could be useful in saying that, oh, fuck, you know, like here I am in this situation. No time to analyze right now. So I better put this here into this compartment and not now.
And come later, yeah.
It'll come later. But yeah, whether we come later or not to that is also something that's like, you could say, unpacking that drawer, you know, that compartment, whether that's done like immediately or at some point down the future, spontaneously, that compartment explodes. And then, so I'm curious, and then have we not had this experience of understanding how to deal with it psychologically or somatically through some sort of a practice or contemplative practice? What would happen at that point?
Yeah.
Well, you see people have a complete breakdown, you know, like, and they become dysfunctional. They wouldn't be able to continue with their career, or there'll be some physical thing could happen too, like, you know, there would be no physical problems. All of a sudden, there'll be a knee problem or a back problem or something. So as we know very well, you know, physical pain, we can transcend physical pain, but we can also, physical pain can be a very good indicator, a message of, okay, you need to start to deal with this stuff here. So was there... in my talking to you, it seems like you were always able to immediately address it. But were there times where you didn't? You put it away and then it came up later unexpectedly?
So if you've resonated so far with any of the topics discussed, please consider sharing it with others and clicking the like button. This is really going to help more people find it and support all the efforts that go into this production. Your being here to check out this episode today is a massive contribution toward the sharing of ideas that unfold in these talks, and thank you very much for your support. And subscribe to get real-time notifications about all upcoming episodes.
Of course, yes. Especially, I consider myself a woman with a lot of energy. I always had a lot of energy. So with the age, so I realized that I still have a lot of energy, but sometimes I felt like, oh, I cannot hold it so long, you know. But I realized when I was in Germany, it was a situation in my life that I realized, I said to my ex-husband, you know, Mohan, I feel like I need to reduce the work. Because I feel maybe I will hate my career if I don't stop right now. And I couldn't understand what was happening. We were independent, so we had to do a lot of work. I loved it. I loved everything. What I have been learning with Mohan, what I have been building with him is just like amazing. I loved it. But definitely was too much, you know. Sometimes we think we are the only ones who can really understand it. We're the only one that really do it how we want to do it. And, you know, to be free of this part of us for a certain time is good, but for a long term, it's like impossible to hold. So to hold it. And then I realized that with the time that unconsciously I was doing that what you just explained, literally, like I was put it there on the side. And I couldn't believe it at the moment, because I thought, well, my attitude was the right one. Actually, it was the right one because I had to learn it on this way, you know. But then definitely what I was doing, sometimes when you just excuse, this is the balance as well. If you are the whole time excusing the other one and trying to be on the place of the other one, this extreme is also not good. You know, it's great to have it. You know, it's not that I would say to my parents, you have to teach me that it is not always good, because it was very good. I really think that it was very good. And I love that they give me that. But on the other hand, of course, without to be conscious of that, I also was trying to excuse certain situation in my life, like it's okay, it's because it's too much of that. So I had considered and I have patience of that and wait and wait and wait. But definitely all that was also sucking a lot of energy, and somehow I felt it on my body. Like I say, like, I don't know, but I feel I am too tired. I was not used to feel tired. So all the signals to be a dancer, I'm very happy because it's like the connection with my body, and to understand with the time, with the years, that the body is always telling you everything.
Yeah.
But we are so
Disconnected.
disconnected, and sometimes we have a word in Spanish, it calls terco, to be terco. You know what I mean? So
No,
you say,
explain.
You say like, don't touch the fire, but you're like, you go. It's better you do that way and you go again on this way. And sometimes it's like, you have a character and it's good and you go for it, and it doesn't matter what the people say, you do it and you do it, you do it, you do it, and you make it. So it's not bad, because I feel this also make me doing my dreams, because I was like, I do it. But on the other hand, also sometimes it's the balance, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting. I had this conversation with Cheo, your current partner,
Yes.
and yesterday when we were up on the mountain having a drink after the weekend, staring down at the paragliders, and we were talking about you, and Cheo said, yeah, you know, when I met Maria Lucia, I thought to myself, who is this woman? When she has an idea,
Yeah.
she doesn't think, she just goes. and you're thinking, hey, you know, like, what, are you going to be okay? And he said, this is the thing that just grabbed me. He said, it seemed totally unreasonable what she was doing. That the reality is that what she did, she manifested in some way. And I mean, I can understand that too, because I think we're very similar characters in that
Yes.
way. I'd like to just mention something there too as well, but we're really interested to hear now about Tanzmoto. Everything you just said about we were independent and we had to do everything ourselves. I think it's kind of like you were very busy. Also, we were very busy in Japan, and it's around that time that we met. And I think that was part of the prominent factor of our collaborations together with you know, because Mohan also has the character where he's driven forward and he had an idea in his head, he wants to try something, so open to experiencing things and not thinking about the consequences so much. Tell us a little bit about the conception of Tanzmoto, and it's very important for people to understand that Tanzmoto was something that Maria Lucia developed with Mohan Thomas, her ex-husband, in Essen, and it was a dance company, but also ended up being an educational format as well too for their students in Germany.
Yes, right. So actually, when we created the company, I was still at university. I was on my third year, and I think it's a nice story. I wanna tell, but because we are three sisters, and my older sister was in New York, and because we kind of like cross ours, like we miss us. When I came here, she wasn't here, then I left, and then she came here. So like that happened 2 years, so I didn't saw her. And my sister Ana Milena says, you know what? I buy you the ticket, I buy the ticket for you, and you come, I need to see you. And I was like, okay. So she was in New York, and Mohan said to me, you know what about if I go, and then she knows me also, and then we can be with her. She will be also more quiet and happy, because she had been like my mother as well somehow. So we went there, but on the year of 2003, we did our first big production called Orientation. Mohan has his father from Sri Lanka and his mother from Germany. And this influenced him a lot in his art and personality. So he also was always very interested in all the Oriental culture and Turkey and Asia, and he was very curious about life as well. So we met, he had some Turkish musicians friends, and then we developed a piece called Orientation was based on the Sufism, and we worked with a real dervish. It was amazing. We learned how to turn, and the piece was like 3 of us, we were turning. And actually I was getting dizzy when, even if you just take me to the corner. So the choreography was a big challenge for me because it was turning and turning and turning.
How long do you have to spin?
The piece was 1 hour.
Spinning for 1 hour.
No, we interchanged the moments. Like we learned traditional with him, with the dervish. But the choreography was a contemporary choreography. So Mohan was spinning like
I can imagine.
yes, yes, so fast with electronic music, because he had a lot of influence with electronic music, and he was doing like a very quick movements while he was just turning. And I was more expressing with, I had big skirt, kind of like Colombian and contemporary, very very mixed. And I was doing it with some folkloristic movements and energy, and then the dervish. But then also with another costumes, we went like very like a planets, like on the space, and a lot of different forms of turning. And there was also very beautiful drummer from Colombia. So the music was traditional and crossover, like electronic, like everything. But I don't want to go too much on that, but it was very important, this piece. Why? On that time, we have the VHS. And he said, you know what? Why we just bring some copies and just knock the doors in New York, and who knows? Like, okay, I always like, yes, okay, let's go, let's do it. So we went to New York to my sister, and then we knocked some doors. Actually, we are also in this library where are old videos of the contemporary dance, and this VHS is somewhere there. So we were very proud. And we went also to the Soho Theater. They have a big theater and a small one, and then we brought it also there. We went to Germany, and maybe like 1 month or 2 months after we got the invitation. We couldn't believe it. It was like, really? So we were really happy, and somehow our name of the company wasn't really done already. Like, we were just like starting. So we have somehow this invitation to New York pushed us to have everything in order, to register, to do everything very formal. And in 2004, we fly to New York with a lot of effort, and we went to the musician, we went with the dancer, and we had, I think it was 3 nights or 2 nights full. We went to the New York Times critics, very beautiful critics. My whole family from USA fly to New York and came to see me. This was very special for me. And from this moment on, the first duo we did with Mohan was about yoga. We did a duo first, and then we did this big production. This was more bigger. And from this time on, like every year or every 2 years, we were creating a production. So,
and you were traveling with your productions all around the world, right?
Yeah, we traveled inside of Germany. But what happened is something very important in our life, I say in his life as well, I'm sure is true, is a very special choreographer called Royston Muldoon. He's Scottish, and he creates a kind of like community dance, and he got very famous, very, very famous, because they did a film with him in Berlin with the Philharmonic Orchestra, and they were like over 100 students, like they never danced before, never, ever. And they did Sacre from Stravinsky, and the film is called Rhythm Is It. I really, really recommend it. And he was looking for assistant to do a project in Marle, the place where I'm going to fly this year in May and dance. And so Mohan applies, and they connect immediately. They connect immediately, and then they start to work together, and then I came also there. I had the big opportunity to dance a duo from Royston, and we connect in all terms. And we have been done so many projects together. Like we work almost over 12 years, and we start to work with him with all this concept of community dance. So somehow something happened in Germany, I believe through Royston, that schools realize how important it is to do this kind of project with the students. How much, especially for these students that you say like, he will never learn. Really, like I went to many schools and they say to me, Maria, if you want, before you start, I take Patrick out because he will never. And I say like, no, thank you. We say always, we don't want to know the life of Patrick. You know him with this structure, but please let us know him as new. So this was our philosophy somehow. We went to all these schools. We did like year projects, 3 months projects, 1 month, 1 week, 3 weeks, always very different. But then Germany started to really support projects to go with professionals, dancers, artists, choreographers to schools.
I mean, I remember you were getting so much financial support in Germany for your productions as well.
Yes.
Projects.
Yeah. This was amazing. It was a very beautiful time. People had such amazing experiences. So all these times, like it, conform how important it is to get in contact with your body and get in contact without words with another people. So how many things happen and how you have to open your senses. You have to dance with 100 people. You cannot think in just what I'm going to play right now, what I'm going to eat. You cannot, you can die. Because if you run, if you are not aware, it's just absolutely dangerous. So you got like 60 people running to one side and then the other cross over. And, it's like you have to be completely aware. And how much you could teach about respect, communication, dialogue, listen, speaking without speaking. But you are like how important it is that we have a duo and we have 5 rehearsals and you come 2 rehearsals. So frustrating for your partner because you are not there, so she cannot practice or he cannot practice. And how important is the commitment, and how much the consequences are when you say yes and then you don't do it. Like how the discipline is not because somebody tell you to be on time or to be when all rehearsals. But if you want to build something, how important is the quality of your being there? Yeah. So I loved it. I knew it in my heart. I remember when I was at university and finished, and all my friends were doing like thousands of auditions. And I was like, strange, I'm different. I'm not on that. Of course, I connect with Mohan and we wanted to create the company and we want to do it. But in one hand, I thought, okay, I want experience because still it's part of the skills to be there and present yourself, to do the audition. So I did maybe 1, 2, but I really didn't feel connected. It's not the way I want. It's the way of many dancers, of course. You go from one city to the other, from one company, theater to the other, to do the auditions. But I knew inside of myself, of course, I want to be on the stage because this is it's another topic, very magical thing. But this of sharing and trying to bring the other people, living these experiences that you cannot explain with words is for me like maximum.
But you're predominantly committed to everything you were doing with Tensmodo. You didn't go off and do a lot of other auditions.
Nothing. No, never.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I did.
So a lot of dancers would not be like that, right?
No,
a lot of dancers
no.
Same.
Yeah, I know. But the good thing was like Mohan, we invite different choreographers, and I had some invitations. So I went in Sweden also, like dancing with also with live music, and I had very very important influence in my life with Daniel Fetekwa. He is a choreographer and a Colombian dancer. He's now in New York doing a lot of beautiful things. But I learned with him a Colombian folklore. So we created a company called Pajarillo Pintado while I was a student at the university, and we traveled a lot. I went to Qatar, to Italy, Sweden, to different parts in Germany. Was amazing. I loved it, and I learned a lot through him from Colombian folklore that really gave me a lot of knowledge, a way of teaching, and reach my culture somehow. Was really good to feel somehow connected. We did an amazing program, and we travel a lot with this company as well. So even if I was with Tanzmoto, you know, these all other choreographers came, and then came Royston. I was like, every second with him was just learning. He is a big mentor for me, very important in my life.
Royston Meldum.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
We'll mention that also in the show notes. I mean, it's one just we want to talk a little bit about Mukti as well, because it is the part of the trajectory. But in relation to Tanzmoto, what was the biggest thing you learned from that whole experience of building Tanzmoto's programs? I mean, another thing I'd also like to mention that Tanzmoto was also in my visits to Germany, I was invited to co-teach with you guys.
Yes.
At a school with a bunch of kids from that were from you know, maybe not, you know, sort of an unfortunate maybe would that be correct to assume, like maybe not like a little bit from backgrounds which have maybe been a bit difficult.
Yes.
Young kids, the ages maybe being between. If I remember correctly, was it about 8 and 14 years old? Something
Yes.
like 8 and 14 years old. You were doing kind of a lot of outreach stuff like that
Yes.
too. It was very interesting. And not just dancing, but working with these kids to help them to express themselves, doing some yoga with them, doing some dance with them, alongside of all the productions you did, alongside of having your own studio where you taught dance, where you taught yoga, where you taught other practices. What was like, what was the biggest thing that you got out of that experience with Tanzmoto? I mean, I know there's many, but if you could just sort of, you know, sum that up. What was the biggest thing that came out of it? Because you could say it wasn't just a dance company. There were so many things you were involved as being educators. You were doing outreach in your community. So what was the biggest thing you got from that?
Wow, this is an incredible question. Because, you know, it has been like the half of my life being with. So to resume that is really hard for me.
Yeah.
But I will say,
We can always have a longer conversation at another point in the future about Tanzmoto specifically.
yes, yeah. I have to do a break because I want to cry. So, yes. I don't know, but it just came. Yes. So many years, you know. Yeah, it's okay. Yes. I think there are many, many things, but one of the most beautiful things is that to bring space of authenticity, to be yourself, inspire me on my work. Like we wanted to try that the people be themselves, you know. Sometimes you think this is myself and then it's just an illusion. But as soon as you think this is yourself and you give the space for exploring and expressing yourself, for me have been so important. I never had to pretend nothing with Tanzmoto. So I always could be myself and develop myself. I had moments of being as interpreter or choreographer, but especially as interpreter, Mohan and Royston, and especially both of them, they will never say to me, you have to, you know. Mohan was very hard most very like a strong character and maybe not soft speaking. But when you understand the other, so you don't take it personal, but still sometimes it's very sensitive. But I loved it because Royston always say to me, like when at the conference you explain how to take the glass. You remember? You did 3 different movements, let's say like 3 different possibilities of performing action. And when I had to learn, sometimes the most of the pieces I did, I was part of the creation. So it's more authentic because you are putting your own movements and it's not that you have to learn something. But one of my most important pieces that I interpreted as a dancer was the last piece I did before I came to Colombia. And it was a wish. It was amazing choreography from Royston. And Royston said to me, and I am so happy for that, because he said, you are so free to change anything from the choreography if you feel that the idea of the expression for you feels more natural. If you do it like this, or if you do it like this, similar to what you was explaining, he said, feel free to just adjust it. So this is for me art. Like there is never a performance that is the same. It's never a movement the same. You know, maybe the intention, maybe the idea, maybe the shape, but it's never the same. So maybe I take that from Tanzmoto, because this inspired me also my actual project as well.
Currently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And so let's talk about the actual project. This is a great time to bring it in.
Yeah.
So you left Germany in 2018. You came back to Colombia. Mukti was conceived a year after or 2 years after?
Like 2 years, a little bit longer than 2 years. Yeah, 2 years and a little bit.
Okay. So first of all, can you explain the concept behind Mukti? Okay, so Mukti, for those of you listening and watching, is a studio which offers interdisciplinary learning in different movement practices, which are including yoga and dance. So please tell us the full name of the studio and the concept behind that name.
Yeah.
Okay, so
the name is Mukti Espacio Vivo, and Mukti is a word from the Sanskrit language, and it means I always say it in Spanish as liberación y conexión, like liberation and connection with your pure part of yourself, with the pure part of yourself. And Espacio Vivo is like a life space. No. So why I took this name? I mean, I didn't want to call the space like liberation, because it sounds like too hippie, you know, like liberation space. And I realized like the word in Sanskrit I love, because there are like if you translate it, it's like a poetry, you know. It's not just like literally like we do in English and Spanish. And somehow put in one word what I want, the purpose of the space. The concept is that the people who goes there have, rather through movement, breathing, or art, a space to connect with themselves, right? So I will just give a platform of connection with yourself. So on these times, we are always like running, doing things for the kids, for the company, to get money, to, you know, always functioning for the society, for the family, for your, what the body is asking you to get, and what all these wishes and that. And it's so difficult to stop, you know. We have in Germany, the winter, spring, summer. We have in Colombia 12 months summer. So you don't have this culture of come quiet, be alone, come home and just silence. Like, it's not the culture many of us, we do it, but it's not the normal. I never have been alone before I went to Germany. I didn't know what means to be alone. I cried every night when I was alone.
Sorry, I don't think I need to laugh at them. I understand it, but a little bit from Japan as well. I mean,
yes, for sure.
Yeah.
I was crying every night. It was terrible to be alone, and now I love it. You know, I mean, it's a very profound experience to be alone, because you are never alone. No, but you know what I mean. So I thought. I have heard so many stories because I have been working with so many people. So when you are in a yoga class, when you are in a dance class, I was telling you at the beginning, it's an intimacy moment. So we don't just, we try. I mean, sometimes we just automatically, but it's not the point of. It's the moment where you open and you can be yourself, fragile, strong, vulnerable, you know, you can just be. So I have heard so many stories, so many things. You know, at the work with Transmoto, I come a little bit back. We work with a lot of people from Syria, Afghanistan, Africa, that they just saw their families exploding through the wall, you know, like extremely situations. And to see how the moment of just be quiet and feel yourself, how the healing, what is going on there was amazing. How the people I remember even in Japan, when I gave a yoga class and the student just started crying and he said, I'm sorry, and he apologized the whole time. He said, like, don't worry, you know, we just did a normal class. Maybe it was for him the moment of stop and just release. So I will not call myself a psychologist. I will not call myself a therapist. I will not call Mukti space. You will have, you don't want to put a name. Okay. It's a concept of give yourself a moment to stop and to connect with you, but real, not connect with the
phone or
exactly. Just.
But so I mean, and then similar to that of Transmoto, and I mean, this is something we've seen from here, and this is also something we now experience. We see you're so connected with the community. You're connected with the university. You're connected with the hospital. You're connected with the creative arts community here. You've explained to us that you've already done lots of creative projects. You've done choreographed productions. You've done programs where you've gone off and taught body-related somatic practices, including yoga and dance, to the hospital and to the and now you're also building an affiliation with the university here to do these things. So my understanding is that the concept is that you do have the physical space here, but obviously it's expanding out into the community too.
Completely.
Right?
This part of the concept. The part of the concept is to create red. How you say red? Like network. So for me, at the beginning on, that's what I didn't open immediately Mukti, because I already had the idea on my mind. I wrote some stuffs, but suddenly life, I wanted to do a break, and then somehow I started working with the mayor, with the project, with amazing project. And this was good to arrive, because I thought, I saw it how it was in Germany. Like my students, even if they were much older than me, they will always ask me such a subtle questions, and they wanted to hear my opinion. So I felt like it's a big responsibility. I never thought like, this is the right, this is the wrong. But I say, okay, I went to this doctor and I felt very good. Maybe you can try it out. Or I went to this place and I think I can recommend it. Like, we were with you, so we brought you, we recommend, like you can recommend, you can. So I knew this will happen here. And I thought, okay, if this happened here, I don't have the network, not yet. I mean, although I was coming every year here, and my family is very big, and we are kind of like very connected in this little city. So this is half adventures. I didn't have this community, so this network. But I knew it from the beginning of that Mukti. I want to develop this network, because when the people get aware of themselves through movement, through art, through breathing, they want more. And this is why I experience in myself and I experience at the community in Germany. So I thought I just don't want to give the platform like yoga classes and dance classes and finish, because I know it will grow the awareness. Oh, I hope also, you know. So that's why Mukti have 3 arms. Like the first one is to have a regular practice. Whatever you decide, you don't have to do. I mean, it's everything what I have been done at the university, like ballet class, contemporary yoga, and flamenco I didn't put not yet, but maybe is growing on that. But basically that, and Afro dance. So the second arm are the workshops. So we bring the experts to go more deep on your daily practice. And the third one are the sensitive events. What I put that in the inside of that is are also the artistic productions, because what happened to me is like when I went to a concert, when I went to a performance, and so many things happened to me, yes, and transform my personality, I clarify things, it healed also sometimes. So I thought this I want included. So somehow through these 2.5 years, it happened. So some people knew Mukti because we did the production at the theater, or some people connect with Mukti because we did a little market outside with the students that create their own companies. And so to get the people without wanted to have just these kind of like hippie ones or conservative or open-minded, like for me, it's more like a human being. Also in the sexual way or material way, direction or level of society level is like, they don't have to look like I look like. They don't have to like what I like. You know, the idea is that you go to Mukti, you put your foot there, and you can just be free and try to be yourself and try to know yourself about movement, true movement, art, and I don't know how to say bienestar, I think is wellness.
Well, yeah, wellness. And also, as you said, networking and community. I mean, I think that's a great.
This is so important.
So, so just to wrap up today, because I know we have to stop soon. We know we've had lots of feedback so far, how it's impacted your community, but we would like to also, now that we're here, just to get comments from you on your interpretation of our visit to Colombia and what you thought of the work that we're doing now, because it's shifted from the last time that we actually met and did stuff together.
Personally, when we met, I will never forget, like I remember so much about resistance, like using the whole body to protect. If you come to any of my classes, I will always speak about it. So I have the influence is very clear, because sometimes when I did it through dancing, sometimes these kind of workshops and meeting experts is like it nurtures so much your career, in this case my career. So I'm always interested to what I do, that it feels good, that I feel is good for myself, to do it as long term as possible. So with yoga, it's a very dangerous thing, and also with dance, because you think you just copy. If you are young, it's fine, you just copy, and it's good. It's part of the education and form. But with the years, our body changed so much. And for me, this is what I have been learning with you since we met, and since you have so many years developing this method, and the essence is there completely. So I was so sure, like, what I was so happy is like when you have a class and then it's just 1 hour, and you have students that come often but always come new ones. It's not enough space for all the details, because it's so profound. It was the conference difficult just to pack everything in once, to give a word. So like you want to give everything, especially when you feel the reception of the people. So I really feel like the influence is very big. I'm happy for that, to also to remember again, and I feel like it's completely fresh. I don't feel like it was like 14 years ago. I feel it is completely there. Maybe because I also repeat it, I remember, and when I teach it, I remember also to myself. So I'm very happy for that. I'm really thankful for that. Thank you so much. And the other thing is that now to have you guys here, I didn't know what will happen. I knew that it's important for the city. I knew that's important for me also. I knew that I'm sure you are a very serious person and a very deep person, that you will not just do some try out. I mean, we are always trying out something, but very, very, it's not nothing superficial, you know? So I thought, okay, we try it, but I don't know how the people will really react, because it's kind of very different. And I was observing the people through the whole days and workshops, and I was so positive surprised, because I already had some people doing your method with another people, and some like kind of like crash, like maybe this destroy a little bit my form of thinking. You know, they want to move the whole time, or to be so aware of everything, like and I didn't know how the people will really react here, but I had the feeling I want to do it, and I'm sure you are professionals and we go very well. I'm so positive surprise. So I saw the students, the music student from UNAP, the teachers, and I saw their eyes, and I was like inside of myself, I was so happy, because exactly this space of give the people the opportunity of get inside of themselves and be aware. Like, you don't have to be a dancer to be aware of yourself. You don't have to be a dancer, or you don't have to be a yogi to listen to your inner voice. We all can do it. But if we don't have a space for that, to love yourself, to hear yourself, it's impossible to get it, you know? And so I am very positive. I'm very happy, and I hope this is the first time for many, many times. I'm very happy of the community of Mukti, because I do this work since 2.5 years, but still, like, it's very clear, like yoga, dance, ballet, whatever. But this was like a new method, and different foreigners, and who knows, you know, and 8 hours.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I see the series of events across like weeks. I mean, Christ, was long. Like,
yes. And the people are not used to it. We as a dancer, we are used to that. And sportlets and, you know, science or whatever, it's a time that you see actually is not so much, but 8 hours. And, you know, with Mukti, we are doing like the retreats, the workshops, and the longest ones I did with the psychiatrists and psychologists, and it was a beautiful project. It was 1 day, 4 hours, but it wasn't really 4 hours. I mean, it was very dynamic.
Yep.
And this was like really the first time, and I'm so happy and proud of the community and of Bucaramanga, also the students at the UNAP, because they were completely there.
Yeah.
Completely there with another language and something completely new. And so this motivates me to try to have you guys more times here, and motivate me a lot, because this is the concept of Mukti. Exactly that. Yeah.
I have a comment. I was just thinking that when you started talking about the RED, the network, I also connected it with just the concept of Mukti Espacio Vivo, espacio, space. So space, it is a physical space, right?
Yes.
You can enter it. But at the same time, it's a space to provide space for something in a more metaphorical way. It is also to provide opportunity, right?
Yes.
And thinking about networks, having a network is also something that gives you opportunity. So over this past week that we were observing how you're just managing to do things, and they just appear somehow.
Yes.
I'd like to probably use not only the word network, but somehow like tornado would be describing what you're doing.
Yes. So
It's like
So the word network, yes, the word network doesn't really describe what has been
what we've been
Yes.
witnessing here.
Yeah, when you just want something and you just walk and you bump into a person, I want this, and this person says, I have it, right? But I mean, but this is a result of having a network, right? So when you have a network, then when you want something to happen, it's much easier to make it happen,
Yes.
right? And also, I think it really connected when I was listening with what you said, that the most important thing you learned from Tan's motto is this feeling of authenticity, that it's okay to do things the way that you want. Maybe some other people think it's a crazy idea, right? But if you start doing it, people will appear, right? And it's going to happen. Maybe not, but if you do it enough, and if you learn how to do things in such a way that things happen, it's going to happen. So from this perspective, to me, it sounds like to make something like Mukti work in a place like Bucaramanga, it really needs a person like Maria Lucia. Yes, with all your experience. Yeah, so somehow just that, the authenticity and the opportunity for people to be authentic, also to be with yourself, it also means to be authentic, to realize what you want to do, what maybe you don't want to do, right? Don't listen to other people. Yeah, so I somehow really heard how it all connected.
Nice. And you know what, the Colombians, this is I think a very good thing also to see. When I was in Germany, to understand the culture was very difficult, because even to ask for the time, the people was angry because I asked what time is it, and I did all the best to ask in my best German to ask the time, and they were so angry because it was so cold. So after I understood, you don't want to move. You have it like freezing there, and then they have to do like this, and it's so cold. You don't wanna touch with the air, the skin, So, okay, whatever. But it was so different, and I realized when you are in Germany, you can be 95 years and you can still go shopping. You don't need no one, and you understand what I mean. That's why you are also in Canada. So you went to Canada to support, the family. So in Germany, is like you have the government, so you write, and I need this, and they will give it to you. Here you can write the government, but it will not work, Here you call your neighbor, your mother, your family, and there are not so much families. Like maybe I have the greatest present in my life. That is, I think, the most important thing in my life is my family. But what I realize is like you can create your community. It doesn't have to be mom, pop, husband, kids. You can create your community independent of the relationship of family or not, because we are all connected somehow. It's maybe sounds like, why is she talking about it? But it's like in the community, it doesn't have to be 20 brothers and sisters, and you can be 3, but that that you have them. Community is so important for developing, to grow, to have conflicts, to have nice times, to support each other. And I feel, in what I say to my people, it's good to accept that we need each other. In Germany, I learned to be completely alone, even if I was with people around. It was not easy. It was hard. It was sad sometimes. It was frustrated sometimes. But it was also very good to see that you can do anything alone. But I invite the people to do it together, because it's most fun. It's really beautiful.
Well, they say power in numbers, right? So.
And also, just if you learn to do things alone, and then you come to a place, or when there's a community, you just have so much more energy to do what you can do.
And different things happen, The best thing, and this also yoga teacher say to me, like Govinda Kai said to me, to a workshop, you want to practice yoga? And he asked to all of us, the people like that. So go for relationships. I was thinking, what means that? I wrote it. I wrote it down. I was always writing everything what he was saying. And it's like, of course. Because then you really go to the practice. You really go to this understanding, empathy, tolerance, and growing together, and really dialogue. Like, it's really, doesn't have to be that you have to have 1,000 friends. but relationship.
Yeah, and the quality, the developing the quality of those relationships.
Exactly.
To be continued, as I say with everybody, because there's so much to talk about, and this was just our first, our first time to do this. But with this program that we're doing with these episodes, it's like we hope it's a continuity, of the subjects, because there's so much to talk about, and the experiences and perception will change over time too. That we're hoping that this is not the last time that we're going to talk with you on camera like this.
Yes.
And we're really honored to have been able to do this here in Bucaramanga in Colombia with you. It's a great experience. I mean, like, to do this talk with you and to have collaborated with you for this whole week. And, we've wrapped everything up now, and we're just winding down, having a lot of good food, having a few beers, having a bit of aguardiente. That's a bit more dangerous. But look, thank you so much. Right?
Yeah, thank you too.
It was a real pleasure to have you on and
Yes.
on the episode and to hear you talk about everything. In the show notes, I'm going to be providing everybody with all the relevant links. There'll also be an extensive biography introduction to everything that Maria Lucia has done in her life up until this point in time, and where you can connect with her. And another thing just worth mentioning is that Maria Lucia will be doing productions in Germany coming up, likely in other places in the world too as time goes by. She's not just exclusive to Colombia, although her main project is here. And on that note, thank you so much.
Hasta la próxima. Super, gracias.
Okay.
Thank you very much for tuning in today. And again, please consider liking and sharing the episode with others if it resonated with you. You can also subscribe and set up notifications anywhere you listen to or watch this to get real-time updates about all future uploads. And please email us a brief voice memo letting us know what inspired you or pushed your buttons to ideas@baseworks.com. To benefit from exclusive content delivered right into your inbox, consider signing up for our newsletter from the footer on any page of our website. To know more about Baseworks specifically and everything we're doing, visit our website at baseworks.com.